Psychiatry is just there to sell drugs, toxic drugs, full stop. There's no such thing as disturbed children. That's an excuse to drug children. I was in padded cells as a kid and drugged, and they always justify it by saying, oh, they were in a terrible state at the time, we are doing the best we could or whatever. But they're just denying that they're giving toxic drugs out. And there's no such thing as a disturbed child. It's easier to do it when you say, look the other way, they have mental illness or they're disturbed children. Um, but Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline don't care about them. They know the clinical trials are dodgy, and in fact the inserts say that they haven't been tested on children or adolescents, let alone long term. They don't know about brain development. It's toxic for adults, so what's it going to be like for children? It doesn't matter because they just see them as like some, um, like as if they've got some terminally ill disease or something, or no mental illness, and they lie to the parents. They'll say things like they always minimize the harm, aka the side effects on drug leaflets. They say, oh, there's a they just have to write a load of there's a long list of side effects. They have to write all the any possible side effects down on the leaflets, so they don't really exist. They just have to write them down. There's a long list of side effects. Everything has side effects. Everything is harmful, but actually, psychiatric drugs are really harmful and really toxic, and they affect brain development, and they change the way your brain works. And they're drugs. They're addictive. They don't tell you they're addictive either. And I would say that restraining kids is not something you should do. Um, it's a ridiculous way. Medications alone, and the whole idea of this mental illness thing over here is takes also you don't learn responsibility. You take every time I took a piece of medication, that was a piece of responsibility taken away. Every time I got into the habit of being restrained, that's why restraining is bad. I got into the habit of being restrained, and then I went to another place, and all you can do is the only way you know after that is to be restrained. Um, in fact, I'm very institutionalized. I'd rather live like that the rest of my life if it wasn't for toxic drugs. But I still wouldn't do that because I actually would want to faction myself from my life and be independent, and not have responsibility taken away from me. Um, Obviously, a lot of people can get away with a lot of things by saying mental illness or whatever. It's totally unhealthy. There's no such thing as disturbed child or disturbed children. They're children. Um, it provide convenient answers, but you're creating big problems that can't be solved. Once you have toxic drugs from damage from drugs, permanent ones, that's it. You can't reverse that. You can't reverse diabetes. You can't reverse some of the toxic damage, the changes in development, difficulty in concentrating that might develop after being on those drugs. So a lot of those things are permanent. Toxic, irreversible toxicity. It's a lot of that you can't change back, and it's totally wrong. And Glyzer and GlaxoSmithKline don't care, obviously. So it's the doctor's job to work for the drug companies, to defend the drug companies against patients and innocent children and stuff. That's what the job is. That's why they minified the thing that says side effects. They minimize it and pretend like it's no big deal and it doesn't really exist. They have to write a long list of side effects. They just have to write them. It doesn't really exist. They minimize it. So their job is to defend the drug companies and give them toxic drugs to children. You don't learn responsibility when you're being restrained. You learn to be restrained, and you get into the habit of that. You get into the habit. It's a really bad habit. It shouldn't. It's not necessary. And if your kid is breaking stuff in your home, then don't replace that stuff. And they will learn the consequences of their actions, instead of teaching them they're not in control of their actions, and then trying to restrain them and treat that as if it's some like helpful. It's not responsible. Responsible adults don't restrain kids. You're learning everything completely upside down and backward, and I'm someone from a very young kid who that's the way it was, and it took me like a decade to grow out of that and to start to learn to be responsible for myself, because the irresponsible adults restrained me and were showing me how not to be responsible. You don't learn how to do things like that. It's terrible. You don't need to restrain kids. If they're breaking things in your home, let them break things. They break the TV, don't replace the TV. And the thing is, you care about your kids. So you have to, if you have to suffer a little bit and not watch TV, let's say if they break a TV and they have to live a long time realizing that their action of breaking the TV meant that they couldn't watch TV, then maybe they'll start to learn to control some of their things. It might take a long time, and it might take you not being able to watch TV, but that's the whole point of caring for your children. I'm not saying you don't, but that's a far better way. From my experience, that's how things work, and it's a far better way. Instead of teaching them through acting irresponsibly as an adult, teaching them irresponsibly.